Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's so good of you to join me here today. Now today I want to take the time to discuss this very interesting article about space mining and asteroid mining because we've talked about this on this channel a couple of times before, and just the sheer amount of value that is just literally within our fingertips, just right in our celestial neighborhood, that we could reach, that could potentially just revolutionize everything on this planet, so long as we develop the kind of technologies to go out there and just even get one of these rocks back to Earth, obviously safe, non-dinosaur ending kind of way. And so today I just want to take the time to read this very interesting article, and just let's go ahead and start with the headline. Here it says, rare asteroids near Earth may become targets for space mining, and these priceless chunks could offer clues about an even greater cosmic treasure. So here in the first paragraph, it says, scientists just calculated that two metallic asteroids floating in Earth's vicinity may contain precious metals worth about $11.65 trillion. That is a lot of value, right? And these rocks are just generally don't tend to be very big anyway. If we could just get ourselves to there, because the quantities are so pure and refined in there that it doesn't take much to generate a whole lot of value. And the reason for that is because, the things in space tend to stay relatively untouched forever, for billions and billions of years, whereas Earth has geologic activity and other things that make it harder to get the same kind of quantities of undisturbed resources that you have in outer space. So here it says the expensive nugget, in fact, could boast more iron, nickel, and cobalt than the entirety of our global metal reserves. Yeah, so just a couple of these rocks have more of that than anything that we have here on Earth. Kind of makes me wonder if some of the higher quantities that we've seen of these metals here on planet were from previous asteroid impacts. I wonder how true that could be. Called metal rich near Earth asteroids, these rare hefty mineral deposits measure over a mile wide. So okay, they're a little bigger than a football field. The one reckoned to be a metal mother lode is labeled 1986 DA, and the other one is 2016 ED85. So I think they're kind of named after the years that they were found or discovered. The duo could be possible targets for asteroid mining in the future, according to a new analysis published Friday in the Planetary Science Journal. And this is important because we've talked about this on several times on this channel. The amount of technological advances we would be able to have by creating an abundance of resources that could be easily accessible to people, just everyday people, and even larger corporations and everybody. It's just a be completely groundbreaking and changing, because one of the biggest hurdles that we have in technological and growth development is the availability of resources that we have to develop, right? And so it takes massive corporations, millions and billions of dollars to develop these resources. But if you could drop that price to near zero by just mining an asteroid to get these kinds of metals and materials, then it just opens up the door for all kinds of technological innovation and possibility, right? As far as development. So here it says space mining has gained traction in the scientific community because experts believe that the feat could provide cost-effective metals for lunar or Mars-based colony. And this is, again, this is the outward push from our planet, ultimately expanding humanity's reach in exploring space. With a cosmic mine, building materials won't have to withstand the expensive shuttle from Earth to space. And I didn't think about that. It's like the fact if you could pick these up on the way and then bring them with you to other parts of the system, then it changes a lot in what we can do. Further, the team behind the math suggests these unique floating orbs may shed a much-needed light on the authenticity of other metallic treasure NASA is headed to in 2022. The mysterious shiny space globe known as 16 Psyche. Interesting name. 16 Psyche has its own allure for space mining enthusiasts. Instead of trees, oceans, or stretches of soil, the bizarre body is thought to consist of hills, valleys made of pure metal. Okay, and like we mentioned, these are very high quantity, very pure metals that are worth trillions of dollars. So I said, if you could put a house next to one of these, you'd be the richest person on the planet tomorrow, richer than most countries probably. Scientists contend it's the remaining core of an ancient rocky planet that was once destroyed. Interestingly, Earth's covered-up core looks awfully similar. Aptly dubbed the mini Psyches, the valuable smaller asteroid described in the new study are presumably pieces that have broken off from similar naked center, though the research team notes that they don't think these fragments are offshoots of 16 Psyche in particular. And so it's kind of interesting. Still, 16 Psyche has become a hot topic of discussion among scientists and even the public. It's suspected to hold minerals worth 10 quadrillion. Let that sink in. That's more than the entire value of Earth's GDP. Like, what's Earth's GDP? I mean, America's GDP is like 28, 29 trillion, right? So this is just like such an unimaginably high number. Like I said, you mine this, like that's it. Like game over. Like which is kind of creates interesting situation because like basically every single mineral based economy, if we could find this, like basically it just changes the entire dynamic. Like every single resource based economy on the planet just suddenly like just instantly evaporates, right? Like you don't have needs for countries that are rich in these kinds of resources, because then at that point every single country would have to kind of gravitate toward the United States is, or Europe, where it's like they're a processing or like engineering based service economies that rely more heavily on intellectual property than mining or refining or manufacturing, and instead, like I said, go into more service based type of things. And I think that whole planet would make that transition, which is in fact the better thing, because you do want to have those kinds of economy. You want to have an economy that's built more on building and developing intellectual property than just digging stuff out of the ground. It's just better overall. So here it says the exorbitant figure, however, has generated considerable doubt because scientists can't be sure what 16 Psyche is made of until a spacecraft inspects it. It's too far away for precise spectrum analysis. And anybody that knows anything about chemistry or physics or other things, spectrum analysis is just kind of like you look at a band of reflected light and you kind of see where like the little dark spots are in that band. Again, I studied this in chemistry years and years ago, but basically like every single metal material has a different band of light with different like parts in that spectrum graph. Boy, if you're a chemist or a physicist or whoever like that knows this stuff, I do apologize right now for butchering the scientific concept, but that's kind of what I learned. So spectrum analysis is just a very easy way of just like understanding like the compositional makeup of metals and materials. A scientific method that leverages electromagnetic emission and absorption signal to learn about objects' composition. Okay, so that maybe I don't have to go into a whole rant there. Until such an examination can happen, some things NASA mission intends to perform, researchers have to consider the option that it's merely some sort of rubble. That makes data from the mini psyches indispensable. They may offer a first look at the namesake's feature. Proximity to our home planet deems it much easier for scientists to capture the rock's spectral info from Earth. It is rewarding that we have discovered these mini sites so close to Earth. And again, this kind of goes back into the, understanding the origins of our planet and, our solar system. Vishnu Reddy, associate professor at University of Arizona's Lunar Planetary Laboratory and principal investigator of NASA's giant that funded the work, said in a statement. Okay. Sifting through the collected data, research found that orbiting rocks are made of 85% metal, such as iron and nickel, and only 15% silicate, which is basically regular rock. As such, some ambiguity about 16 Psyche might soon be alleviated thanks to the baby versions of it, including whether it'll add to the crew of treasure troves for future space mining. And that's kind of interesting. It's like that's the most interesting part of space mining, is that it's really a first come first serve. Whichever corporation, nation, or whatever just gets out there and just mines the first rock, it's like instantly has like such an enormous, overwhelming advantage relative to every other country and whatnot on the planet. And at that point, you kind of also have to wonder if like we change our society to where fusion and space mining is possible. It's like, would our planet even exist in its current form, right? One thing I kind of always try to think, and maybe I'll just like make a separate video about this, is like just what is the future of our planet? Because I feel like what's happening right now with countries and other things like that, I think it's kind of a relic, more or less, that I think like you're gonna see a lot more political unions forming in the future, because fundamentally, for one, we have information technology. The ability for me to learn another language, to speak with other people and talk to people across the globe is becoming easier, right? Reason we developed countries is because groups of humanity was so isolated for so long. And if you catapult this technology, forward, and you have that, like, is there like every single nation fundamentally changes, and every single nation will now start competing on intellectual resources, because basic resources have no significance at this point. Like if you have fusion, who cares how much oil or gas you have on the ground? If you're asteroid mining, nobody cares that you can open up a mine somewhere in the desert. Like it just doesn't matter anymore. And every single nation becomes only so valuable as much as they have intellectual property that they can develop, right? Which puts the United States as number one, because then the United States is the number one innovator in the world when it comes to all of this. So now let me finish the last paragraph here because I always love getting sidetracked. Regardless, while the trio of metallic chunks definitely seem to hint at our sci-fi fantasies of space mining itching towards reality, one thing is absolutely certain: that's a pretty hardcore squad. Haha, interesting pun there. But yeah, it's like, this is an interesting article because as I've talked before several times this channel, space mining is just like I said, space mining and energy is the next frontier. Anything we can do to develop these resources, just instantly game changer. Like it's like I said, our system of governance, a system of economics, is just like, it's a wrap at that point, because like we would have to create a completely new paradigm, simply because resources would be so cheap that our entire organizational structures would change fundamentally for all of humanity. Are we close to this dream? Closer than we were 20 years ago. Definitely closer than we were like 50 years ago, maybe. But it's still pretty far away. I mean, as I said, if you look at like commercial space exploration, it's kind of interesting that companies are getting into it, but there's still there's still a lot of lag between them and like actual governments that can send stuff out. And again, it's another video I've talked about this. It's like, once we're able to do this at a commercial level, and not just a commercial level, it's more of like, once we're able to do this at a very like small business level, like it doesn't take much organization, much structure, it doesn't take a multi-billion-dollar corporation to go out into space and mine one of these things. It like I said, it's over for a lot of the ways in which we think about the world, and we'll have to come up with new ways of thinking about it. And that's what I want to explore in this channel more, and kind of some of these thoughts and ideas of like, what will happen once this technology is developed. Because on this channel, I like talking about technology. I like talking about what is possible, right? I don't want to get stuck in what is, okay, and the doom and gloom of everything. Like, no, you got to think forward. You got to think, what can we do with the technologies that we have available, and where those technologies are going to go, because that's where it creates opportunity, and opportunity is very important for progress. So anyway, I think I've ranted long enough. I thought it was going to be a 5-minute video, but as always, I just keep on going. And like I said, these topics are interesting, very thought provocative. If you made it this far in the video, comment, share, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you like this kind of content, like I said, don't be afraid. Leave a comment below. I always love to engage with y'all. And again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you all later.